For centuries, whispered legends have spoken of a hidden kingdom beyond the snowy peaks of the Himalayas, a paradise untouched by time and corruption, known only by one name, Shambhala. To some, it was merely a myth born from the imagination of monks who lived in isolation, crafting stories to inspire seekers of truth. To others, Shambhala was very real, a physical place concealed in the folds of mountains, protected by magic and secrecy, where an enlightened civilization guarded knowledge that could change the fate of humanity. The Tibetan texts, particularly the Kalachakra Tantra, describe it not as a land of fantasy but as a glorious kingdom ruled by wise kings, where peace, prosperity, and spiritual advancement flourish in ways unimaginable to the modern world. And yet, like all secrets too powerful for ordinary men, Shambhala's existence is hidden behind layers of mystery, guarded not only by mountains but by time itself. The first Western travelers who dared to enter Tibet in the 17th and 18th centuries were captivated by the rumors they heard from lamas and wandering mystics. They recorded cryptic testimonies of a hidden city where golden spires touched the sky, where rivers of crystal flowed, and where ancient manuscripts contained the secrets of the universe itself. What fascinated them most, however, was that every Tibetan monk, no matter how secluded or unworldly, spoke of Shambhala with a kind of certainty. They did not describe it as metaphor or myth, but as a prophecy, an inevitable truth that would one day reveal itself to the world. Yet when these explorers pressed further, they encountered silence, or worse, a warning: Shambhala was not meant to be found by the unworthy. It was said that only the pure of heart, or those who possessed the right karmic destiny, could ever hope to glimpse its gates. The deeper you dig into the ancient chronicles, the more unsettling the details become. Tibetan writings describe Shambhala not as a mystical dream, but with geography, borders, rulers, and dynasties. The kingdom was said to be circular, surrounded by snow mountains, with a capital city built from precious jewels and metals, where every street gleamed as if lit by stars. At the heart of the city stood a palace that radiated light, inhabited by the Kalki Kings, spiritual monarchs who each inherited the sacred Kalachakra teachings and vowed to protect them until the end of time. These kings were no ordinary rulers. The texts suggest they wielded technologies and wisdom beyond comprehension, machines that could harness cosmic energy, weapons that could control natural forces, and scrolls that contained the very equations of creation. For skeptics, these are symbolic metaphors. For believers, they are proof of a lost civilization whose knowledge surpasses our own. It wasn't just monks and mystics who fueled these legends. In the early 20th century, a wave of explorers, spies, and adventurers set their eyes on the Himalayas, convinced that the hidden kingdom was more than just a story. Some of them were driven by spiritual hunger, others by political motives, and some, by sheer obsession. Nicholas Roerich, the Russian painter and mystic, claimed during his expeditions in the 1920s that locals spoke openly about Shambhala as though it was just over the next mountain pass. He described strange lights in the skies above Tibet, luminous objects moving in ways no known craft could. Roerich believed that Shambhala was not only real but tied to a cosmic order that humanity had yet to understand. Even stranger, he suggested that Shambhala's knowledge was being carefully guarded until the world reached a moment of great crisis, only then would its gates open. But it wasn't just Roerich. During World War II, Nazi expeditions led by Heinrich Himmler and the Ahnenerbe were sent to Tibet under the guise of anthropology, but their true mission was steeped in the occult. They sought Shambhala and its twin, Agartha, as part of their search for ancient knowledge and power. Whispers from Tibetan monasteries suggested the Nazis were convinced that Shambhala contained records of a super-advanced race, perhaps even the origins of humanity itself. To the Nazis, this wasn't mythology, it was potential proof of a master civilization that could justify their twisted ideology. Though the expeditions failed to bring back any concrete evidence, the fact that one of the world's most dangerous regimes poured resources into finding Shambhala reveals how powerful the myth had become. And yet, when we strip away the layers of propaganda, mysticism, and spiritual allegory, the core question remains: what is Shambhala? Is it a physical kingdom hidden by geography, an advanced civilization existing in secrecy? Is it an interdimensional realm, accessible only through altered states of consciousness? Or is it simply a metaphor for inner enlightenment? The Tibetan texts are deliberately ambiguous, perhaps intentionally so. They describe Shambhala as both a land you can travel to in your body, and a place that exists only for the pure of spirit. This paradox has driven seekers mad for centuries, pulling them across frozen mountains and into the depths of monasteries where scrolls lie locked behind walls of secrecy. But the mystery does not end there. At the heart of the Shambhala prophecy lies a chilling prediction. It is said that in the distant future, when the world is overrun with greed, violence, and ignorance, when nations rise and fall in endless cycles of war, the final king of Shambhala will emerge. Leading an invincible army, he will wage the last great battle between light and darkness, destroying corruption and restoring harmony to earth. To believers, this prophecy is not fiction, it is a roadmap of humanity's destiny. And when you realize how eerily this aligns with global crises, political chaos, and environmental collapse today, the prophecy feels less like fantasy and more like a warning we were never meant to ignore. What makes the story even more unnerving is how many cultures outside Tibet also whisper of hidden lands and final battles. Hindu texts speak of a Kalki avatar who will appear at the end of Kali Yuga to destroy evil and renew the world. Native American legends tell of hidden tribes who will rise during humanity's darkest hour. Even in Christianity, the Book of Revelation echoes with a similar theme of a final battle between forces of good and evil. Could all of these myths be fragments of the same truth? Could Shambhala be the missing link between them all, the hidden center of a story that unites every culture under one terrifying destiny? Part of what keeps Shambhala so terrifyingly mysterious is the possibility that traces of it might already have been found, but hidden from the public eye. Declassified CIA documents from the Cold War reveal how obsessed intelligence agencies were with Tibet, monitoring strange reports from monasteries and unexplained sightings in the mountains. Rumors persist that deep beneath the snows, explorers discovered vast tunnel systems that seemed artificially carved, leading to chambers decorated with unknown symbols. Some even claim that advanced technology, machines not belonging to any known culture, was hidden within. If true, this would mean Shambhala was never just a legend, but a real civilization erased from history, its treasures locked away for the powerful few. The suspense builds when you realize that even modern adventurers continue to vanish while searching for it. Locals warn of strange storms that come without warning, avalanches that seem almost unnatural, and lights that disorient travelers, leading them deeper into the mountains until they are never seen again. It's as though the land itself conspires to keep intruders away, guarding its secrets with forces we cannot comprehend. Some whisper that Shambhala doesn't want to be found, that it reveals itself only when the time is right, and when humanity is ready to handle its knowledge. And so, the legend of Shambhala hangs like a shadow over human history, part hope, part terror. Is it humanity's last refuge, a utopia waiting for us when all else collapses? Or is it a warning, a prophecy of a war so devastating it will decide the fate of the world? Whatever the truth may be, the silence of the monks, the obsession of explorers, and the chilling accuracy of the prophecies all point to one conclusion: Shambhala is not just a story. It is a secret, alive, waiting, and perhaps, closer than we dare to believe. The legend of Shambhala did not remain locked within dusty monasteries or whispered prayers of monks. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Western world had become obsessed with the possibility of hidden civilizations, and Shambhala quickly rose to the top of this fascination. The age of exploration had already revealed wonders like Machu Picchu, Angkor Wat, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, proof that history always hid more than it revealed. So, if lost temples could be found in the jungles of South America, why not a hidden kingdom in the icy fortresses of the Himalayas? With this mindset, explorers, mystics, and even governments began hunting for the truth behind the myth. But as the world would soon discover, chasing Shambhala was never just about finding a lost city, it was about unlocking something far more dangerous. The first waves of explorers came with notebooks, compasses, and an almost religious obsession. They trekked through avalanches, crossed glaciers, and bribed their way into monasteries forbidden to outsiders. Among them was the famous Russian painter and mystic, Nicholas Roerich, whose Himalayan expeditions in the 1920s became legendary. Roerich was not an ordinary adventurer, he was a man driven by visions. He believed Shambhala was not just a place but a cosmic center, a kingdom of light, that held the blueprint of humanity's future. His journals describe mysterious encounters with monks who spoke of luminous beings protecting Shambhala's gates, and of strange lights moving silently across the skies, decades before the term UFO entered popular culture. Roerich even claimed that during one of his journeys in 1927, his entire caravan witnessed a glowing object move overhead before vanishing behind the mountain peaks. To him, this was no coincidence, it was a sign that Shambhala's guardians were watching. But Roerich was not alone in his belief. While he spoke of Shambhala as a place of peace and prophecy, others began to see it as something far more exploitable. And in the shadows of World War II, that obsession reached a terrifying new height. The Nazis, under Heinrich Himmler's Ahnenerbe, an institute dedicated to uncovering ancient knowledge, sent expeditions to Tibet in the 1930s and 1940s. Publicly, they claimed it was for anthropology, to study Tibetan culture and traditions. But behind the curtain, their mission was steeped in the occult. Himmler was obsessed with the idea that Shambhala, along with its supposed twin kingdom of Agartha, was proof of an advanced Aryan civilization that had once ruled the earth. If found, it could provide justification for their twisted racial ideology, and perhaps even grant them access to technologies that could tip the balance of war. The Nazis sent scholars, archaeologists, and even SS officers into Tibet, bearing gifts and bribes for local lamas, desperate for any scrap of information about hidden valleys, tunnels, or maps that could lead them to Shambhala. What they discovered remains cloaked in secrecy, but rumors persist that they returned not empty-handed but with ancient manuscripts, strange relics, and tales of underground sanctuaries guarded by monks who refused entry to outsiders. Some claim these expeditions brought back fragments of the Kalachakra teachings, attempting to twist its prophecies into Nazi propaganda. Others whisper of something more chilling, that deep in Tibet, the Nazis were shown evidence of advanced knowledge they could not comprehend, and that these fragments influenced their pursuit of so-called wonder weapons during the war. Whether these claims are true or not, one thing is certain, the Nazis believed Shambhala was real enough to risk resources and lives in pursuit of it. And the story does not end with the Nazis. After World War II, as the Cold War began to consume the globe, Tibet became a chessboard not only of politics but of mysteries. The CIA and Soviet intelligence agencies both turned their eyes toward the Himalayas, fascinated by reports of hidden tunnels, strange sightings, and monks with inexplicable knowledge. Declassified CIA files reveal a startling interest in Tibetan mysticism during the 1950s and 1960s, with agents noting that Soviet expeditions had gone into the mountains not for minerals or trade, but for spiritual archaeology. There are even reports, buried in Cold War archives, that Soviet teams stumbled upon vast cavern systems beneath the mountains, tunnels that seemed too precise, too engineered, to be natural. When asked about them, local lamas remained silent, refusing to say whether these passages were connected to Shambhala. Some agents wrote in their notes that it felt as though the monks knew more than they were willing to reveal, as though they were bound by an ancient oath. It was during this era that whispers of the hidden archives grew louder. Stories spread of massive underground libraries sealed beneath monasteries, where scrolls older than any known civilization were kept safe. According to Tibetan lore, these were not mere religious texts but records of entire civilizations lost to time, Atlantis, Lemuria, and other forgotten ages. Some said these scrolls detailed technologies beyond anything modern science could replicate, machines powered by sound, weapons that could harness the energy of the sun, and maps not of Earth as we know it, but of realms beyond, parallel dimensions connected by hidden gates. For intelligence agencies caught in a race for global domination, the possibility of such knowledge was irresistible. To them, Shambhala was no longer a myth but a potential treasure trove of power, one that had to be found before the enemy. Yet, despite all the expeditions, all the secrecy, and all the obsession, Shambhala remained elusive. It was as if the kingdom itself had woven a veil of protection, frustrating every attempt to expose it. Adventurers vanished mysteriously in the mountains, expeditions ended in disaster, and those who claimed to have seen even a glimpse of Shambhala often returned changed, speaking of visions, of voices in the wind, of dreams too vivid to be illusions. Some never returned at all. Local villagers explained these disappearances simply: they were not worthy. It was a chilling reminder that Shambhala was not just hidden by distance, but by destiny. Still, the fascination never faded. In the late 20th century, as satellite imaging technology advanced, researchers began scanning the Himalayas from above, searching for unusual patterns in the snow and rock. While most saw only mountains and valleys, some claimed to find geometric anomalies, perfectly circular depressions, unusual shadow patterns, and areas where the terrain seemed edited, as though something had been deliberately obscured. Conspiracy theorists argued that these were signs of hidden structures, concealed not only by nature but by design. Could it be that even with our modern technology, Shambhala remained protected, perhaps by forces beyond human understanding? Even stranger, accounts began surfacing from spiritual practitioners who claimed that Shambhala was not accessible by physical travel at all. They insisted that the gates to Shambhala existed, but not in the physical world. Instead, they could be reached through altered states of consciousness. The Kalachakra initiations performed by Tibetan lamas were said to be not just rituals but maps, guiding the soul through astral gates into the hidden kingdom. If true, this meant that explorers searching with compasses and maps were doomed to fail, because the journey was not across land, but across dimensions. In this light, Shambhala became something more than a lost city. It became a key to other worlds, a portal to realms beyond our own. And yet, the prophecy remained the most haunting part of the legend. Tibetan monks continue to teach that one day, when corruption and greed consume the earth, the final king of Shambhala will rise with an army of spiritual warriors, wielding weapons of light and power unseen in our world. They will wage war not with mere soldiers, but with forces that could shake the very foundations of reality. For centuries, this prophecy was seen as allegory, a poetic warning. But in the 20th and 21st centuries, with the rise of nuclear weapons, environmental collapse, and global instability, the prophecy began to feel less symbolic and more chillingly literal. What if Shambhala's warriors were not myth, but a hidden civilization preparing for the day humanity crosses a line of no return? This is where the story of Shambhala becomes more terrifying than inspiring. If it is real, then it means that somewhere beneath the snow, or within dimensions we cannot see, lies a force greater than any empire on earth. A force that has been watching, waiting, and preparing. And when the moment comes, when humanity's greed threatens to tear the world apart, Shambhala will not remain silent. It will emerge. And when it does, the world as we know it will end, not with whispers but with thunder. For centuries, Shambhala lingered as a myth, a promise of paradise to the faithful, a puzzle for explorers, and a dangerous obsession for empires. But as the world moved deeper into the 21st century, strange signs began to suggest that the prophecy tied to Shambhala might not belong only to the past. If the kingdom had waited in silence, guarding its secrets across millennia, then perhaps, just perhaps, its silence was about to break. And if that prophecy was real, it would not simply reshape history, it would redefine the future of humanity. In the snowy peaks of Tibet, monks continued to whisper about the final king of Shambhala, the Kalki King, who would lead the armies of light against the forces of darkness in a war that would engulf the earth. For outsiders, this sounded like allegory, a grand metaphor for the struggle between good and evil. But those who studied the Kalachakra texts more carefully began to notice chilling parallels between the prophecies and the state of our modern world. The texts spoke of a time when greed and corruption would rot the foundations of society, when leaders would become intoxicated by power, when nations would fight endlessly, and when humanity would tamper with forces it could not control. For centuries, these lines were considered symbolic. Now, they read like headlines. Nuclear weapons, climate collapse, artificial intelligence spiraling beyond human control, and wars waged not for survival, but for domination. Had the world finally reached the threshold that would awaken Shambhala? The deeper researchers dug, the more the line between myth and reality blurred. In 2019, declassified satellite images revealed peculiar heat signatures beneath the Himalayas, far below the snow line where no human settlement should exist. Scientists dismissed them as geothermal anomalies. Conspiracy theorists argued otherwise. What if these were not natural, but artificial? What if deep beneath the mountains, something ancient still thrived? Around the same time, whispers spread from trekkers who claimed to have stumbled on valleys hidden by strange mists, valleys that vanished when they tried to return. Some said they heard chanting on the wind, though no monastery was near. Others described luminous figures watching them from ridges, only to vanish when approached. These accounts were ridiculed, but too many stories began to sound alike. Could all of them be illusions? Or were they glimpses of a world meant to remain unseen? Meanwhile, in secret circles of academia, the idea of Shambhala as an interdimensional realm began gaining traction. Scholars of Tibetan Buddhism pointed out that the Kalachakra initiation is not just a spiritual ritual, it is a map, describing not only the journey of the soul but the geography of Shambhala itself. To them, the kingdom was never meant to be found with footsteps and maps, but through altered states of consciousness, astral projection, and spiritual awakening. And yet, what if these spiritual gates were not metaphors but literal portals, points of entry to a parallel dimension, a hollow earth, or a higher plane of existence? If so, then Shambhala may have always been real, simply beyond the reach of ordinary human perception. This theory gained a shocking twist when leaked reports from Cold War experiments surfaced online. Both the Soviet Union and the CIA had funded research into remote viewing, the psychic ability to see places across distance and time. Among the strange declassified files were mentions of mountain sanctuaries and a city of light, hidden beyond normal dimensions. Agents wrote cryptically of a gateway not of this earth, and though the files were fragmentary, they eerily echoed the descriptions of Shambhala from Tibetan texts. If intelligence agencies were spending money to psychically locate this kingdom, did they know something the public did not? But perhaps the most terrifying element of the Shambhala legend remains its prophecy. It does not speak of peace, but of war. Not of gradual enlightenment, but of a sudden, apocalyptic clash. The texts warn of an age when forces of darkness, armies of cruelty, powered by greed and destructive technologies, would rise to dominate the earth. When that moment came, Shambhala's gates would open, unleashing an army unlike any the world had ever seen. They would wield weapons of light, forces beyond the imagination of human science, and with them, they would erase the armies of darkness in a war that would shake the heavens. And when it was over, a new golden age would dawn. To the faithful, this prophecy offers hope, that even in humanity's darkest hour, salvation waits. But to skeptics, it is far more chilling. If Shambhala's warriors are real, where are they now? Are they already watching us, waiting for the moment when humanity crosses the line? And if they do emerge, will they see us as allies, or as part of the corruption they are destined to destroy? Modern events only add fuel to the fire. Climate disasters ravage the earth. Wars erupt across borders. Powerful nations experiment with quantum weapons, AI-driven armies, and technologies that blur the line between science and sorcery. These are not distant possibilities, they are happening now. And as humanity toys with forces it barely understands, one cannot help but ask, are we fulfilling the very conditions described in the prophecy of Shambhala? Are we pushing the world toward the final war? In Tibet, the monks remain silent. They smile at tourists, perform rituals for the curious, and continue their initiations in quiet halls. But behind closed doors, some scholars claim that high lamas still whisper among themselves that the time is near. That signs of the prophecy's unfolding have already begun. Some even claim that visions of the Kalki King have appeared in dreams, not to monks alone but to people across the world, chosen without their knowledge to bear witness to what is coming. Are these dreams just imagination, or is the hidden kingdom reaching out, planting seeds of awareness before the storm? And so the legend of Shambhala persists, balanced between myth and reality, between hope and terror. Perhaps it is nothing more than a story, a parable spun from the imagination of ancient monks. Or perhaps it is exactly what it claims to be, a hidden kingdom, shielded by destiny, waiting in silence until the day it must act. If so, then our world is living on borrowed time. Because one thing is certain, the prophecy does not say, if. It says, when. And when Shambhala rises, the earth will never be the same again.